Good morning, everyone. This is Tim Harris with the Harris Real Estate University. And if you're attending a Harris Real Estate University Superstar interview for the first time, let me let you know what you're in for. So nearly every Friday here at Harris Real Estate University, we provide this free real estate training event called the Superstar Interview. On some of these Superstar interviews, what we do is Julie and I will present information that we know that all of you will benefit from, mostly based on that week's free coaching calls that we've done or coaching calls with our graduate coaching students. On other Fridays, what we'll do is we'll interview an author, and I've got quite a few authors lined up. We're kind of booked solid for Superstars all the way through the end of the year almost. Lots of authors want to speak with you guys. Sometimes these authors are real estate folks. Other times they're economists. Sometimes they're people, frankly, that are not necessarily directly tied to the real estate industry, but someone we feel would have a great influence on your life. And then the other Fridays, frankly, my favorite Fridays for interviews, are when we interview a superstar agent, a Harris Real Estate University student, someone who's not a student, someone who, frankly, I know will impress you, I know will motivate you. See, here's the thing with success, guys. Success leaves a path that you can follow. Success leaves clues. And I think you're going to learn today when we interview Century 21's number one realtor for the world, Miss Marty Rodriguez, you're going to find out that with every word that she has to offer, everything that she says is worth paying very close attention to because she has so much experience, she has so much, frankly, wisdom to offer to our industry that you definitely want to tune in to what she says, how she says it. Listen to her motivation. Listen to everything that she has to say. Take notes. So without any further delay, Marty, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, Tim.
Okay, great, Marty. So we can hear you fine. Thank you. All right, so you're on the call. We're ready to roll. Rochelle, everything at Mission Control I can handle from here, so thank you for monitoring everything. So, Marty, let's just jump right in. Let's just get right to some of the tough questions. And, oh, by the way, guys, the format of today's interview, of every Superstar interview, is just that. It's question and answer. So if you have any questions that you want Marty to answer, go ahead and submit those into the webinar box on the screen, and Julie and I will review those questions, and we'll use probably most of your questions on today's interview. But, Marty, let's just get started with the questions I sent you earlier. Tell me, where do you sell real estate? Let them know about how they can get hold of you to send you referrals and all that good stuff.
My office is right here in Glendora, California, at Century 21 Marty Rodriguez at 1030 East Route 66, and our office number here is 626-914-6637, and I sell real estate in the San Gabriel Valley and part of the Inland Empire.
Okay, so are you on a headset, Marty?
No, I'm on the phone. Does it sound like I'm on a headset?
All right. No, there's just a little bit. Your mouth is probably a little bit close to the. Our recording system is very sensitive, and sometimes there's a little. You might be just talking a little bit close to the phone, is all.
Okay, I'll pull it.
No worries.
Is that better?
No. All right, that's better. Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Now, so Inland Empire, California, where you're talking about, that is an area that was very hard hit from the bubble bursting in the real estate markets. I know you've sold real estate for how many years now?
33 years now. Long time. So I've been through the good. I've been through the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking. I mean, you've seen a slowdown before, but nothing like this, right?
Exactly, because, in the 90s was our last turn down, but remember, the 90s did not have 100% stated income financing, so it was definitely not what you see today.
That's
so
right.
It was a much milder downturn.
Give us Marty, from your perspective, from 33 years. I mean, that's not often you come across somebody who's been successful for that long period of time. Give us your opinion. If one of your agents and your brokerage comes up to you and asks, Marty, what should I expect over the next, say, 3 to 5 years in the real estate market, in your market, what do you tell them?
What to expect? My philosophy right now is whatever the market does, whatever the economy does, is none of my business or your business. Our job is to put buyers and sellers together. That's what I tell them. Because if you focus on what could be, what might be, what should be, you'd be probably doing nothing.
I love that. Because the bottom line is it doesn't matter.
Yeah, somebody asked me a question the other day. They said, well, they're talking about taking financing away, and with 20%, what do you think? I go, you know what? I don't care about what's going to happen later. Today, real estate is on sale. Interest rates are, the lowest they've ever been at, probably average about 4.5%. I go, you need to get up and get out and sell real estate. Don't worry about what could be, what should be, what might be.
Well, so the perspective that a lot of these agents have, Marty, and I'm sure because you have a really nice brokerage, is that they just don't have a very big experience level like you do. So they haven't ever sold real estate in a market that was tough like this. They don't have that perspective. And so they don't understand that even if interest rates go up, even if financing becomes more difficult, even if, all these worst-case scenarios come to play, people will still buy and sell real estate, right?
Tim, in 1980s, I sold real estate at 17%. And when rates came down to 12, we said, oh, my God, isn't that great? You'll never see 7, and look where we're at today. So, I can sell in any market. You just have to know how to sell, because this is the market of the fittest, the most skilled, the most hardworking, the most persistent, the most persevering, and those that bring the most energy to the table.
Well, so we're not sticking to our questions at all, as I suspected we didn't, but that's fine. But we'll bounce around. I knew you were going to motivate me to go in different directions. So, Marty, you're on track to sell over 400 homes this year, correct?
That's our goal, and I know right now we're probably just a little behind. I think we're about 202 closed right now.
All right, and so in your marketplace, you're dealing, guys, if you don't know the marketplace she's selling in, it was one of those areas that kind of came to the boom late. So, Marty, obviously I'm not going to tell you the statistics on your marketplace, but you've seen some drops of home values by, more than 50% in certain areas of the Inland Empire, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And
so,
even in some of those areas, it's even more than that.
Well, so how do you, what percent of those around 400 transactions do you suspect will be distressed sales? Anything other than an equity seller?
It's going to be probably 50% of them. You're going to be, REO or short sale.
What are you doing right now to attract? What are your principal lead generators? And guys, I know your questions are starting to pour in, but what are you doing right now? You've been in the business for a long time, so I can assume that your centers of influence and past clients are a huge source of business for you because you've got an absolutely stellar reputation in your community. But what are you doing specifically to drive business to you in a market like this? What's working for you?
I think it's been the combination for those people that are brand new. I think they are so lucky to start real estate in this market because to start in this market and survive, it's that you are going to be a great salesperson because, real estate is not selling itself. You have to sell it. So, for me, I started, knocking doors, and I wasn't a big cold caller at that time. I was, a door knocker, and I set open houses. So it was a creation of all of that. And as, I was able to afford it later on, then I was able to, throw in some mailers, do a little bit more. And so now we generate between, the leads that come in this office are average probably about 400 a month. And that is a combination from, from print marketing, internet, signs, just, we have a whole combination and referrals. But
okay,
I think,
perfect.
no matter how many calls you get, if you can't convert those to buyers or sellers, that's all about your skill.
Well, you said something a second ago, and I really think it's an important point. What does it mean to be a good salesperson in this market?
I think that you have to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and, that's all about your skill. Are you practicing your skills? Do you know your market, like the back of your hand? I was, like I said, when I started in this business, I was a caravan chairman for the board for 12 years. I used to do caravan twice a week. I learned this market. I can tell you, I can describe neighborhoods from my desk. But, that's what we're missing today. Those people aren't doing, the basics. And right now you've got to go back to basics. Prospecting, working on your skills and get out there and, because you sell what you see and know your areas, know your neighborhoods. Because when you come in contact with your buyer or seller, the more information that you can give them, they begin to feel more comfortable with you, that the market. You're the expert.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and 100%. It's interesting, too, because so a lot of realtors, and I'm sure you experience this with the newer realtors, is in their minds what you're preaching is sort of like old school, and, well, Marty's just not in with the social networking technology and the rest of it. But what you guys need to realize is that what Marty is saying is more...
Tim, we are definitely trying to get into social network, too. Absolutely. You need to be everywhere. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, yeah, and I saw your blog yesterday. I thought it was fantastic, by the way. So, guys, listen, what she's saying, it makes perfect sense, and it does work hand in glove with even with your more technology-minded agents and buyers and sellers, because at the end of the day, they're going to end up talking to you. And if they end up talking to you and they find out they can find out more about that particular market from going on Zillow, well, then you've kind of made yourself, maybe irrelevant. So what Marty's saying makes so much sense, because you got to go and know your market's cold, know what's selling, why it's not selling, days in the market, is it extending, is it shortening, what's the expired rate, all that. You got to know that stuff cold. So important. Mm-hmm. That way when someone does end up with you, they'll know that you're an expert. They'll know that you're someone that they can trust. I mean, Marty, do your new agents struggle to get the concept of the basics being as important as they are?
I think when you're brand new, everybody struggles. So I think that, they're fortunate to, work here with us, because we really work as a team. I try to help them and teach them how to sell and, help them so that their transactions don't fall out. Because I'm telling you right now, I am putting transactions together. If I wasn't the agent, they wouldn't be closing. And, Tim, I know you've been around for a long, long time, and, you are, a great loan representative, and that's what they need to team up with, is good loan people. Because right now, I've had rejections on some transactions, and I've been able to take those to, a good loan officer who could close them, because we do a great job. When my contract desk, I would say 50% of the contracts are not even fully executed from other agencies. That means they don't even know the contract. And I request a copy of the buyer's check, verification down payment letter from the lender, credit scores. So I'm going to, know that I've got a decent buyer on my hands. And when that lender can't close it, I'm like, give me the loan package. Let me take it. Let me close it for you. So some of these agents have been lucky that I've been the agent on the other side, because I got them a paycheck that they would not have had because they were associated with the wrong lender.
Let's drill down on what you just said, because I think it's a really good point. You submit, I'm a realtor, and I submit an offer on a Marty Rodriguez listing. Tell me what happens after that. Tell me what my experience is. And I want all the agents out there to pay very close attention, because this is basically how you can assure that, A, when you get an offer on one of your listings, that it's not an offer from a buyer that's going to flake out because you've actually been vetted through a lender, but also you're going to know that when you're working with buyers, that the buyers themselves are quality. So, Marty, I'm going to submit an offer on one of your listings. Tell me, what are you going to ask me to do? What extra steps or what clarifications are you going to require?
I want a fully executed contract, so we're going to check that contract. If there's anything missing, we're going to send it back to you to complete it. I want a copy of the buyer's check, verification of down payment and closing costs. That means I want a bank statement that's less than 30 days old. I had somebody send me one last year from last August. I was like, are you kidding me? And the letter from their lender who has, pre-approved them or pre-qualified them. And then their credit scores, because at that point, even if they're going with their lender, I know that I've got a decent buyer. I've got something good to work with, because if that lender's not able to approve them, I can pull that package and take it somewhere else. Just like I've done that on 6 transactions in the last 3 months.
Okay, well, so now you're beginning to stoke my old real estate brain. So now you're telling me that you have different lenders for different sorts of buyers, and that's a really important point too, because in the old market, basically your local countrywide realtor or whoever could do pretty much everything for you. So tell me, how do you go about deciding what buyer should go with what lender? Give me an idea of, from the buyer's perspective, how do you gear that?
As a listing agent, I can't do that because I can't pick the lender. You know what I mean? But at least I know if they've got a good package. If that lender can't make it happen, then I'm going to ask him to give me a package and see if I can get it closed for them. But, our agents here, we only try to deal with, lenders that we have worked with, that, we have experience with, that we can trust, basically. Like you've been around for a long, long time. People know you. People trust you. You're a skilled loan rep. You've been through FHA, VA, because a lot of these new lenders have not been through FHA, VA because they were doing all stated income. So if they don't know, how to package these and they're not up with all their new guidelines, there could be an issue.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. A lot of questions are coming in about your team. Tell us about your team and how your team's changed because of this market.
We just, my office is open 7 days a week. A real person answers the phone Monday through Friday from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, and Saturdays and Sundays from 9 to 5. And then we have Letty, who is our listing coordinator, and she, checks in, all the new listings, checks in with my clients once I bring the listing in. And then Jamie does all the advertising and marketing for that property. And then Myra is the contract assistant. So Myra checks all the contracts. Before I negotiate, I tell my seller, I'm not going to call you until I have all of these items, because I don't want them to go on a roller coaster ride. And then once Myra and I open the escrow, the file goes to the transaction coordinators. So Melissa and Salome are the two transaction coordinators. They have an assistant, which is Valerie, because there's a lot of the transaction coordinators have a lot of work to do, especially with these short sales also. And then we have Wendy and Christina on the bank repo desk, because I do REO, so they work on that desk, and my son Sean also works on the bank repo desk. And Sean does all of our technology, has networked all of our systems. And then my daughter Shelly runs the business side of the company. Shelly graduated from USC Marshall School of Business, so she is a great businesswoman. Shelly, Ed, and myself took a course 14 years ago. And that's when it's called MAP. MAP is a management training program out of Orange County. And that's when I knew for sure that I should never, ever run my company. That is not my strength. So Shelley runs the business side of the business. Marina manages the sales support staff. And then my son Ed manages the sales team. So he makes sure that everybody's on track, everybody's working, because my agents, my agents here work full time. That means you show up, you dress up, we do accountability, you produce, or you can't work here. This is a real job, and we treat it as a real job. And in our industry, that's not what we get out there, which is, really frustrating for us, when we're working with agents who, don't return your calls. They send you an offer and don't even call you back. That is, not good.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're describing basically is when the market starts to come, when everyone else goes in one direction, they're starting to panic, wondering what's coming next. What you did is you tightened down on the reins. You basically refocused all of your energies and your team's energies back on the basics, and you've really hammered down on what it's going to take to succeed in this market. And that's the reason I think a lot of top producers like yourself are actually selling more homes. But, it's interesting. You said something yesterday in our pre-call, which I really appreciated. It's a good topic, I think. So even your volume is still in the hundreds of homes per year, right? But the average sale price has dropped, in your marketplace dramatically. That's something that, people don't necessarily put thought to. The average sale price in the United States now is $169,000 from $240,000 in 2006. How have you adjusted your business specifically to handling the lower average commission, the less revenue that's coming in? How have you adjusted?
Luckily, we still have, a full staff, because we don't want to cut the muscle. The staff is the muscle. That's what, provides customer service. Because remember, we must provide good customer service. Without our customers, we are nobody. So Shelley, my daughter, has been able to, cut in other areas, in order to keep everything, moving and to be able to, still transact, negotiate and provide, the good customer service that we're known for.
All right. So when you said something before, and I had some questions coming in about it, and I really want to address it. A huge thing that we teach agents at the Harris Real Estate University is the importance of pre-qualification. Asking tough questions, especially of your sellers, before you even go on the listing appointment. I heard you say the same thing. Marty, before someone from your staff or yourself goes on a listing appointment, what are the questions? What are the barrage of pre-qualification questions you put those potential sellers through before you decide to spend your time with them?
First of all, what their motivation, what do they owe on the house, particularly right now, with the short sale situation where some of these people are still, in another world and they think they have equity. So we've got to decide, is it a short sale, is it not? Are they willing to, go that way? And then our regular standard sellers, we also want to make sure that we get, a price that's workable, because we don't want to, waste a lot of time and money on, on marketing this property. So the questions we have to ask is, what's their motivation? Where are they moving to? What do they owe on these properties? I think those are, really the two key points. And how are we going to be able to help them? But, one thing about me, Tim, I'll try to go on almost every appointment, because sometimes when I get in front of them, I can, reason with them better. And for all these new agents, they should be going on every single appointment, even if something they don't get. Without practice, you will never be great. So, sometimes.
Tell me, give me some more information about, when you're saying that sometimes you can change. You're asking the questions. you're getting a feeling before you go out. This is kind of what I'm translating we're hearing you say, is you're pre-qualifying them. And even if they're not 100% answering your questions the way they should, you're saying still go on the appointment, because at the appointment you might be able to give them better information. I think what you're referring to specifically, yes, Marty, is not somebody that just is lacking motivation. It's not someone that says, well, if I can get my price, I'll sell, or, if I don't sell it now, I'll sell it later. You're saying when you run into those underwater owners that are kind of confused and you can't necessarily satisfy all their concerns over the phone, you're going then to the appointment and then you're talking with them and trying to help them through the process. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, and even on the standard sales, sometimes when they don't sound realistic, it's for me, it's a challenge, and I'm going to go on the appointment anyway. Sometimes if I have, if I have time, I want to go. And if you're a new agent, you should be going on every single appointment, because we are only as good as our experiences. And remember, I've had a lot of more experiences. I've made a lot more mistakes than probably anybody out there, and we've learned from all that. And I feel like my agents are lucky because I try to make sure that, I teach them so they don't make those mistakes that I had to make, because I didn't have, the help or the teachers or the training out there 33 years ago.
Well, you mentioned mistakes, and that's kind of interesting. What are the mistakes that you're really sensitive to helping your agents avoid? What are the things that you're seeing other agents do incorrectly in this market?
When I think back 33 years ago, I remember presenting my first offer. In those days, you'd actually go to the people's house and sit in front of them. And I remember, not having the experience sitting in front of that seller and telling him all the things that were wrong with this house and why I was making this offer. Well, at that point, he shut me off because I was telling him everything that was wrong with this house. So, it's as little as that is on the presentation, and that's all part of, your skill building. So,
right.
I've made, so many other mistakes, in my time. And as you get better and better, it's going to be less and less.
Well, it's interesting, Marty, the mistakes that you're talking about and the mistakes that we coach realtors to avoid are the mistakes of basically being too passive. You're talking about being aggressive. You're talking about being a problem solver. You're talking about, having a higher level of knowledge so you can solve more complex problems. And a lot of realtors that sold during the bubble, well, their mindset is that, I'll get the listing just because I'm nice, or I'll get the listing just because they know me from the, Rotary Club or whatever. And it doesn't work like that anymore, does it?
No. And even if you get the listing and you can't close it, like I just closed one. I had a condo by the freeway that wouldn't sell, and then I had a house over by Glendora Country Club that we had a contingent offer on, but they weren't selling it. So I said, you know what? Let's do this. If your guy wants my condo, let's do an equity trade. So anyway, I put that deal together, and the agent's going, you can't do that. I go, oh, yes, you can. And we did an equity trade straight across because my condo was free and clear. Do you see what I mean? That's about experience and about, knowing, learning. And, I had and I have other ones where, maybe the appraisal was a problem, but let's do a reconsideration of value. And, I'm back to basics. I'm meeting a lot of the appraisers when I know I'm going to have an appraisal issue. So there's so many things.
How often is that happening where you have an appraisal issue?
Here, I'm actually, the agents are pretty good because we're trying to get them to comp things up before they make offers to make sure that, we're able to get that property appraised, because I don't want to spend the money on appraisal and inspection if it's not going to happen. You're out there in a bidding war, and then your buyer gets down to the wire, and guess what? It's not going to appraise. Now you've wasted all his money. So we're having less and less issues with that.
Yeah, but Marty, why are there appraisal problems? I mean, this is a basics thing, right? I mean, what you're describing is something that anyone who's ever sold in a tough market knows to do. You've got to help that appraiser with comps.
Exactly.
You've got to
basics.
Yeah, you got to. Thank you. I mean, that really is the bottom line. You're talking about basic stuff here where you have to be proactively involved in virtually every single step of the real estate transaction, and you can't assume that anything's going to go smoothly. You've got to, babysit a lot. You have a great staff that does that. Newer agents have to learn to do that. Marty, are you seeing agents that are joining your brokerage who basically try to build their teams prematurely? In other words, they think that to build their real estate brokerage, they do it through staff versus learning skills and doing it themselves first and then adding staff?
You know what? Not so much here, but I know other agents do that. They're like, because remember, when I started, I did everything. I started all by myself. So, I've done where I was working till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning until I said, okay, in 1989, the market shifted on us, and now you had to babysit everything. So I told my husband, I need help, and I need help at home. And so he was like, no, you don't. He goes, you can clean house and work too. And so then I got a housekeeper, and he was angry about it. So I thought, okay, now I got to prove to him that I can sell real estate and pay for this housekeeper. So, because I was more focused on work, my production increased. So he was like, man, don't even make the bed, just go to work. So, and that was all about, because now I got to the point where I could afford that housekeeper. And then I was able to hire an assistant. So I took little baby steps where, but I was at that point able to afford it and not only that, remember, I knew what they needed to do because I've done it all. You got new people that they want to start brand new and they want to hire an assistant. I think, are you kidding me? You need to do it all first so you know what to expect from the people who work for you.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So, Marty, looking back, you mentioned when you hired the housekeeper and you were trying to, justify the expense. Looking back, when did you know you could be this successful? When did you first get that spark saying, you know what, this is really something that I can be phenomenal at? When did you originally get that feeling? Do you remember?
You know what? When I hired that housekeeper, because I started, when I first started my first 5 years, I worked with a partner. And then I broke up that partnership, and I told my husband, now I can focus more, and I'm going to go on my own, and I started, being more productive. So that's when I hired that housekeeper was when I knew that, I'm now focused on my business. Because one thing that you don't know about me, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I was the best Christmas card seller. I was the best candy seller. I could outsell any kid in school since I was 6 years old. And I always tell people we are born with certain talents. And we marry the person that brings out the best in us, or we marry the person that takes it away from us. So for me, it'll be 40 years that my husband has put up with me. So I'm pretty lucky. And, when my kids were little, he would tell the kids, he goes, don't put things in mom's head that don't belong there. We need to help her focus on real estate because you know what? He gets it.
Yeah, you sound like you got a great husband, a great family.
I do. I do.
Marty, do you ever have doubts? I mean, in this marketplace, with all the, it's just sort of funny. Historically, we're all having this conversation during, historically one of the worst housing markets in the history of the country. This is worse now than the Great Depression. All these labels that don't really mean that much at the end of the day because people still have to buy and sell real estate. So do you ever have doubts? I mean, even for an inkling, and when you do or if you do, how do you get rid of them? You know what? I just tell myself, just get to work. Because remember, we all got lazy, including myself. We all got lazy when real estate was selling itself. It was just happening. You could stand there and it would just happen. And, we got away from, the basics. So, getting back to basics, wasn't easy for all of us, not even for myself. So, it's like, okay, now we got to, prospect. And for me, it's mostly warm calling because I already have the leads. I just need to make sure that I call them. Well, okay, so do you prefer this market to the old market? Do you prefer, honestly, do you prefer the bubble market where things were basically selling themselves and buyers were buying a house and let alone 10 houses was almost trendy? Do you, you know what? It sounds like it's pretty, yeah. It was fun. It was great. People made a lot of money, but you know what? You didn't test your skills. Anybody could do it. And now, not anybody can do it. Now you have to know how to sell. You have to work. And now this is a real job, and that's what a lot of people don't get. I tell my people, if you're sick and if you die, my client is real sorry, but he wants his escrow to go on the day it's supposed to. We are in a service business, and we have to understand service. So here we work as a team. So if somebody has a problem, we're there to help them. It's like, okay, step aside because you're not focused. Let us help you. Because it's all about focus. That's the bottom line right there. The more you focus, the better you get. And, I have an incredible memory. People go, how can you remember all that? I go, because I don't do anything else but sell real estate. So everything for me is about my clients in real estate. So I can remember, I just had a lady call me. I sold her this house 15 years ago. And it was, like, okay, Wanda. Oh, yeah, Wanda, I remember we sold you that condo and I sold your house. And now she's getting ready to go into a retirement home. But, it's because that's all I do. Well, so you're talking about focus, you're talking about accountability, you're talking about getting back to the basics. Marty, how do you track? How do you keep track of things? I assume you're somebody that tracks, all the way down in terms of the sales side, contacts and things of that nature. What's your specific system that you use to keep yourself on track?
pretty much, Ed is working on that with more of the team because, and I'll tell you right now, I'm different. And I always tell them I'm like a racehorse. I've got blinders and I'm just going full force. I'm looking forward all the time. And, the blinders, I don't let people take me off focus when I'm working on something.
So what you're saying at this point is you're self-motivated and keeping track of things on a very small level doesn't necessarily do it for you because you're always looking at,
Yeah, but my agents are definitely, Ed's got them on track. They track their numbers. And, for me, I've got all my leads on top of my desk because I'm like, I've got to see it. So I've got them on top of my desk. So when I have a minute, I'm calling a prospect. And then I'm back to whatever I need to do. And then, probably calling a prospect or at night calling somebody, doing some follow-up. And actually, personally, I need to get better at that because I have so many past clients. I feel like I'm not doing a good job.
Why aren't you doing a good job with your past clients?
Because you know what? As good as we are, we're not. There's always room for improvement because I feel like I should really be a little bit more organized and do my follow-up with my past clients because sometimes I let the day take me away because I never had, that training. Because, like most of my team does all those, they do Mike Ferry, so they really work on their schedules, where my schedule is more all over the place because if they need me, I'll be there for them. If I need to negotiate. So I'm kind of more that person that's, really the team leader trying to help them and also trying to get my business in.
Well, how can you possibly manage your time? You're a successful real estate business, a real estate team, a growing, obviously your family needs. How do you manage your time? How do you make it so that, Marty Rodriguez has some resemblance of, a life? That's a question that a realtor asks, by the way.
Okay. Well, Sunday's my day off, so we have a house at Newport, so we usually go there on Saturday night, spend all day Sunday, and come home Monday morning. So that's my day off. But if my phone rings, I'll still answer my phone because my husband's okay with that. That's the difference. Tuesdays and Thursday mornings are my workout days, so I'm up at 6. I've got a girl that comes to my house and I work out because I think that's really important. And I didn't realize how important being fit, and having the energy, especially in this market, because I think about how much energy I expend every single day putting some of these transactions together.
Absolutely.
So,
Marty, is balance a myth? I mean, this is something I had 3 or 4 people, and whenever I interview someone that's a top producer, a consistent top producer, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, they're always saying, well, Marty, she's sacrificed everything for the sake of her business, right? She sacrificed her family. She sacrificed, I'm sure you've run into that too. It's basically what people use as an excuse not to succeed themselves. So, and they say, well, go ahead. You can respond to that, sure.
Well, somebody asked my daughter once, they said, hold on, Tim. I just get emotional about this. Anyway, somebody asked my daughter once, they said, when you were growing up, don't you wish your mom had been there more? And she said, if my mom had been there more, I would not have graduated from USC. So understand, there's a price to pay for everything you want in life. You just got to decide what price you want to pay. You know what? I'm one of 11 kids. My mom had 11 kids in 15 years. We lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. And we all went to Catholic school. And they paid the ultimate price. So what
Marty,
price are you willing to pay for your family?
Well, that's right, and that's what people. Let me share with you, and kind of take a breath, and I'll share with you something I read yesterday, and I think everyone will appreciate it. There was an article that I came across, and it was talking about a nurse who was interviewed, and the nurse was a hospice nurse, and the question that was asked was, what are the 5 things that people who are in hospice basically, have regrets about in their lives? And it was all the things that you would expect. But it was interesting. One of the comments was, well, isn't it normal that people would say they wish they hadn't worked so much? But the reaction was, that isn't what they thought. They thought, well, I wish I would have worked harder when I had the opportunity so that maybe when I was at a different stage in my life, I wouldn't have to work as hard. So people don't regret the time that they spent at work necessarily. People regret not getting the results from the time that they spent at work. There is a huge difference. And what oftentimes people will say is, well, I'm just not willing to work that hard. I'm going to, I'm not going to worry about earning as much money. I'm going to, all that. But the fact is, guys, and this is the thing that a lot of people that a lot of people try to deny, is that money does make things better. For the most part, your experiences on this planet do require money. We're spiritual beings in a material world, and private school costs money. Having a home costs money. Eating food costs money. And the more money you have, the easier things will become, and the more you can, frankly, less stress that you have. And oftentimes, guys, when you hear people saying, well, I'm just not willing to put in the effort that Marty is, Marty's putting in the effort if you're listening to her, and I definitely get this vibe from her because she loves her family. That's her motivator. Now, it wasn't necessarily a motivator like for the first year, but it's become her motivator now, 33 years later. That's what's getting her up in the morning. How can I create a legacy for my family, for my grandchildren maybe? I mean, isn't that kind of the prominent thoughts in your mind, Marty?
Yes, and and I work with my kids, so I get to see them every day now. That was, so many parents, that were in real estate. Their kids hated real estate because they never made their kids a part of it. I took my kids everywhere with me. My kids knocked doors with me, so they know what this life is about. They would I pick them up after school and we go knocking doors, and I take them out and buy them ice cream.
That's right. Well, that's don't you think, Marty? What you have, I wish I could bottle and sell to other realtors because you have work ethic. You're willing to put in effort.
Tim, I have a book. It's called Everyone's a Coach by Don Shula and Ken Blanchard. It's one of my favorite books because, Don Shula went to Jesuit schools, and, those guys are, they're great teachers.
Yeah.
Those Jesuit priests. And in that book there is a saying that is like so me. It says, the master in the art of living makes little difference between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he is always doing both. That is me.
And that's what's difficult for other people to understand sometimes about a top producer. That's what's difficult for some people to understand sometimes about anybody who's successful for as long-term as Marty. It's one thing to be successful and have a couple good years, okay? That's certainly commendable, but it's another thing to be successful for decades like Marty has been. And that comes from, you can call it passion, but really what it is she's on a mission. That's the vibe I'm getting from you. And that quote was fantastic, Marty. I think that's really perfect. As you move forward in your business, are you setting goals for yourself? Are goals important to you?
Goals are always important because, if we don't have a goal, if you don't keep score, you can't win. So you've always got to have a goal. And my dad always used to say to us, you must improve on yourself until the day you die. So I feel like the new agent. I am definitely the new agent. In the last 6 years, I had to recreate myself. I had to reinvent myself. I had to learn all about short sales, get certified. I had to learn, all about HREU. I mean, everything that we do, it's new. So I am the new agent. So the new person starting today, is starting where, most of us had to start over again.
Well, so you said you're the new agent, right? That's a mindset. That's a mindset to keep because you were coming out of the bubble market where things were easy. You were coming out of a market where you were selling, obviously hundreds of homes per year, and you said it perfectly, I think, a lot of people lost their edge. A lot of top producers lost their skill set because it was just order taking. So to have the mindset of a new agent, you were kind of knocking yourself down a peg intentionally. Was that difficult to do?
No, because I really felt like, it's like I need to, learn all this stuff, and I'm starting brand new. If I don't learn it, I'm going to be left behind. If I don't do technology, if I don't, keep up with technology, I'll be left behind. I've got to do it all. And that's what, I wasn't raised in the technology era. So, for my kids, that's their language. And for me, I had to, learn it.
So when I was doing some homework on you yesterday, preparing questions and reading your background and all that, I did come across, and guys, we're going to start talking about technology now. There's probably about a dozen questions in the webinar about that, how you're using it to lead generate. So I came across this website, and it was a blog. I recognize it as a WordPress blog, and Marty, I'm sure you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but you don't have to. You're not supposed to. Very nice-looking website that appeared to be a local community organization website. Really great links to schools, really just great information. I actually thought, until I dug in a little deeper, And right on the front page was this really great article about Marty Rodriguez, and just really nicely, professionally written. And then I dug in a little deeper, and Marty, I'm still not 100% sure, but that was your website, wasn't it?
And, I'm not sure which one you were on.
You don't know.
Yeah,
good. You don't have to know.
Yeah, because we have. In fact, call me later and tell me how you got there. Okay.
Okay, well, I snipped the article that's on the blog, and it starts out, Century 21, Marty Rodriguez real estate team in Glendora, California, ranked number one for the entire Century 21. It's probably something your technology person did. But anyway, the point of it is, it was a very well-done blog that was offering community information. Marty was not putting herself first on that page. She was putting content first. It's something that all of you, when you're creating blogs, remember, your approach has to be different. So if I'm a buyer or I'm a seller and I'm going out and looking for a particular agent, one of the things I'm definitely going to do is I'm going to, first of all, we know statistically that they go to the big websites first, the Zillows and the Realtor.coms and the rest of it, and they kind of hone in on an agent from one of those channels. But then the next thing that they're doing in this marketplace, and Marty is saying it continuously, is they're looking for somebody, not just any old realtor, they're looking for somebody that has the track record, certainly, and has the professionalism and the skill set, and then that's the realtor they're engaging with. A lot of you, and hopefully all of you, who focus on listings, especially expired listings, are realizing now that the sellers are becoming much more specific, much more picky, because of the fact that maybe they've listed with another realtor that didn't get the job done. So maybe they went through the process and they hired a realtor that was their friend from church, synagogue, mosque, what have you, and then that realtor didn't have Marty's skill set to get the job done. And now what they're doing is they're looking specifically for specialists. And so what we're seeing, guys, is we're seeing the real estate industry is being broken up and taken over by agents who are able to work at a very high level within niches, the short sales, the REOs. Even for a certain extent, equity sellers are becoming somewhat of a niche, because those guys are certainly having to compete against well-priced distressed property. So, Marty, when you're going about targeting a specific marketing, when you're going out marketing-wise and you're thinking about going after a new segment, let's say, for example, well, that's a good question. Have you expanded your reach in your community? Have you intentionally gone after maybe a particular segment that you maybe had somewhat ignored before?
You know what? We go after everything. Like, if you look at the San Gabriel Valley, 90% of the homes selling are under $500,000. So study your individual markets. Look and see what's selling, and know all of those numbers, because that's really, really important, so you know where your time is going to be best spent. But see, the thing is now that I just know there's not a lot of great salespeople, because what happens is sometimes I'm working on a listing. They want to move up, but they don't know that they can do it. And I'm really tight on the numbers. I go, okay, let's get your house on the market. Let's see if I can get the money that I need, and then on the purchase, have that seller pay your closing costs. Because see, now I'm selling. It's not instant gratification. So I need to help them make this situation happen, and that's what you call selling. And that's the difference today than from before. And so, it's creating either the move-up buyer, because you have less move-up buyers, because remember, buyers are buying REO or short sales. So that's why your higher end is not moving, because you don't have that move-up buyer situation. So when you get into the higher priced homes, you have a lower percentage of sales. So
Someone asked if you're working a lot with investors.
My buyers team are definitely, they have a couple of regular investors. Yes, my buyers team, they do. And some of them are people that I know. So I pretty much only represent the seller. It's very, very rare that I'll ever represent the buyer. I give it to one of my buyer's agents.
Perfect. I got a great question in, Marty. So if you could only pick 2 or 3 things that you'd use as lead generators, if you could only choose 2 or 3 things to generate business, what would they be?
Internet, for one, because that's going to be, your lowest cost. Internet is going to be your lowest cost. Open house. Cold
open
calling.
House, really?
Uh-huh. Huh. You know what? When I didn't have buyers, I would sit open houses. That's how. But remember, don't let people use you, because what happened when I was brand new, these older agents in there, they would have me sit open houses, and I didn't know. I was new, so they were having me sit open houses to satisfy their sellers. If you're going to sit an open house, you want to sit high traffic where people are going to stop. If it's not high traffic, don't do it, because open house is not for the seller. Open house is for the agent. And when I take a listing, I'm honest with my seller. I let them know open house is not for you. Open house is for my agent. So if I have an open house, it's going to be only if my agent wants to sit there, and they only sit in high traffic areas.
Well, you mentioned cold calling too. You mentioned cold calling, and I think we need to kind of drill down on that. What do you mean by cold calling? We're not talking about just picking up the white pages and calling from A to Z.
No, well, we do both. We do, because we have so many leads here. So we track all the leads. So when the leads come in, they get distributed to the different agents. If those agents do not put notes in the computer, I think it's within 5 days, it's open game. Anybody can go in there, and any one of the other agents can go in there and take that lead. Because I'm not going to save leads for people that aren't going to follow up on them. And it's really interesting because, we've had this system for so many years. So sometimes I can see a buyer who's called in maybe 5 times. And then, the one agent finally closed him. So I'm thinking, why didn't the other agent close him? Why, could they not connect? That's why it's good to give those leads to somebody else, because you're not always going to connect with the same people. And what happens is that people save those leads and they don't get work and they get lost.
You also work, I'm sure you work expireds, correct? And in FSBOs, there's probably not very many of those in your marketplace, but expireds have to be a big opportunity for you.
Yeah, you know what? And it's usually when I'm working expireds, like I said, I'm at my desk and I'll see an expired, in my closer to my area, then I'll give them a call if I've got a number.
Okay, so are you personally calling expired listings, or do you have someone on your staff doing it now?
No, I do, and so my buyer's agents call too.
Okay, good. So as far as
the buyer's agents are no longer buyer's agents, they can also list. I mean, if they get a listing, they can list that property, because when the market shifted, I didn't. Go ahead.
Yeah. To answer the question of the agent who asked, basically, I heard her say internet lead generation was a big source for her. But Marty, is that something you can be more specific about? What aspects of internet lead generation, or is that somebody else on your staff?
That would be.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Because we're on so many sites, so we try to my daughter sources every buyer and seller that we close, so we know where our buyers and sellers are coming from. So make sure that you're sourcing all of your clients. How did you get them? When somebody says, it was an internet lead. No, where did they come from? Which part of the internet did they come from? What site? That's what you want. That's what you want to track, because then now you know what you need to do.
Right. So
and I'm not, and just so you guys know, I'm not that techie. That's why I have my son that handles that, and Jamie that works all the internet sites. Henry Ford, they thought he wasn't very smart. He goes, I don't need to know those things. I just have to be able to access the people that can get it for me. That's
right. It's like someone asked Einstein once how many square inches there were in a mile, and he said, why would I want to memorize that fact if I could just look it up in a reference book? That's kind of what you're saying, the same thing.
Yeah,
just focus on the result. So Marty, moving forward, right, in your business, this is kind of an interesting question. I always like to end the interviews with this question because it's always interesting the answers you get. Why you? Why are you successful now when so many other agents are struggling?
I think it's just my work ethic and understand this for your own children. When I was in school, I worked on the Neighborhood Youth Corps program. I was a secretary to Father Dorsey. I worked at Roscoe's 5 and Dime. I was a cheerleader, and I got good grades. So the conditioning that I had as a child is the result of what you see today. So how you condition your children is very important. In fact, I was just telling somebody the other day, I think parents selling, the Girl Scout cookies for their kids, selling, tickets for their kids. No, make your kid do it. What is your kid going to learn from you doing everything for them? You are enabling them to do nothing. I understand all about prospecting. My dad sold Shackley products, and he knew I could sell. He made me go door to door selling Basic Age when I was a little girl. Because I could sell.
So what I'm hearing you say is basically you were trained from day one to be a really top salesperson. And what I'm taking from you, Marty, how you've made me feel listening to you is you've made me realize that you have an unquestionable drive. You have something going on in your mind, something going on in your soul that makes it so that you don't even think, you just do. And agents, listen, I don't want you to be, I like what
you just said, Tim. I don't even think, I just do. I am a racehorse with blinders on. I just go.
But everybody, here's what I want you to understand. You can have that same drive. You don't have to look at Marty and think, and I think Marty is doing her best to try to tell you the same thing. She's saying you can do the same thing. She's saying you can create that same energy inside of you. You just have to give yourself permission to. You have to, in a lot of ways, challenge yourself to. If you guys listen to this interview again, you're going to hear that Marty uses a lot of things to motivate her that are very subtle. You know, a lot of like she said she's going back to the basics because she doesn't want to necessarily fall behind in the marketplace. So she's using fear a little bit to motivate her. Whatever it takes, guys, you can do it too. Don't let, certainly this real estate market, don't let anything intimidate you away from your goals. And the fact is there never has been, and I'm sure in our lifetimes never will be, another opportunity to be helpful to so many potential sellers and, frankly, make as much money as there is now. Back in the bubble, Marty, I mean, you can relate to this. Absolutely you can. You know, a lot of sellers really, they were basically picking agents based on like a beauty contest and whoever would list it for the highest price and the lowest commission. And nowadays they actually need us, right?
Right, exactly. And you know what? And stay away from negative people. Stay away from people who are going to, take your thunder away. That is like so important. Please get away from negative people. And right now we have a great team.
How do you know when you're around somebody like that, Marty? That's a great question, I think, for us to end, because you're definitely somebody that helps, extend the flame. You're somebody that lights fires in other people. How do you know, and how do you give yourself permission to move away from the people that are trying to, dwindle your flame?
You know what? I feel like, I transmit my energy to these people when I come to work every day. So I am not bringing, my problems to work with me. I need to bring them good, positive energy and vice versa. So when you hear somebody complaining all the time and then they, start their little parking lot meetings, that's what you don't want. You want everybody to be on the same page, to be excited, to motivate one another, not to be jealous of somebody else's success. On the contrary, we need to, help each other to help everybody on the team be more successful. And that's how you create a great team. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and I have always listened to my motivational tapes, which I don't have as much time to do anymore. But remember, positive information in, positive information out, junk in, junk out. So make sure what's going in is positive, and that's going to help you get ahead. And sometimes you get I have some family members that I, don't even really see because it's not a good positive situation. And right now there is no room in my brain for that. For me, it's
what, guys? But Marty, what you're describing, again, I know some people would hear what you're saying and they're saying, oh my gosh, how can she possibly be, thinking like that? How could she possibly? But you guys, the reality of it is you have to operate like that. You have to be sensitive to what Marty said it perfectly, garbage in, garbage out, really. I mean, Marty, without even asking, I'm sure you watch virtually no news. I'm sure you basically absorb virtually no outside information that's going to in any way work its way into your subconscious mind and suck your energy away. I'm sure you're very protective of the people that are around you and your family members because of the fact that you have to maintain that high energy level. And that's one of the things that a lot of agents are struggling with is finding that motivation, finding that stick-to-itiveness. And guys, it's not that difficult. Listen to what Marty said. Just, stay focused. Don't turn on the news in the morning. Don't read the newspaper. Don't listen to the radio. She's listening to Tony Robbins. She's doing other things that are going to keep herself motivated. So, Marty, as we wrap up,
I got to tell you, Tim. One thing is the reason I do listen to news, like to keep up on what's going on, because I need to use that to help me just to know what's going on, in the world sometimes, to know the numbers, know the market. If I'm working on a listing, I need to know some certain statistics to help me get that price down. So if you use it, you have to know how to listen to it. If you don't know how to listen to it, don't listen to it at all.
So what you're saying, what I heard you say basically was you can say, well, Mr. Owner, did you hear the employment report that came out today that said da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's how you're using it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
All right, good.
Yes.
So, Marty, as we wrap this interview up, first of all, I want to say you're probably one of my favorite guests. I really appreciate it. And also, if someone wants to send you a referral, we have asset managers, we have bank vice presidents, we have all those types of folks. How do they get hold of you? Web addresses, and all that good stuff.
It's my address is Marty at C21MartyRodriguez.com, and that's Marty with a Y, M-A-R-T-Y at C21MartyRodriguez.com, and our office number here is 626-914-5600. 6637. And we're located at 1030 East Route 66 in Glendora, California.
Perfect. And you service Glendora for people that are maybe in Ohio and they're trying to understand where Glendora, California is? Can we give them kind of a better description?
It would be southeastern Los Angeles County, cities of, Glendora, San Dimas, Laverne, Covina, West Covina, and then into the Inland Empire, Upland, Rancho. We go down as far as Corona. We pretty much think it's about 25-mile radius that we stick to here.
So here's the rule of thumb, guys. You have anybody that's headed towards LA and they have a potential, and they might be a potential candidate for Marty's staff, give her a call. And if it's outside of her service area, I'm sure Marty or someone from her team will point you in the direction of a competent agent. So Marty Rodriguez, Century 21's #1 agent globally. I want to thank you for being this week's Harris Real Estate University Superstar. It was a real pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you, Tim. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And hopefully
have a wonderful weekend
today.
Marty, you want me to read you some of the comments? Because you did. There was a lot of really nice comments, a lot of really personal comments, people sharing their stories, listening to you, being so transparent and so honest with your words. You touched a lot of people, and I think most of the people wouldn't want me to read their comments over the web like this, but you did. And I really appreciate you being, sincerely, from a personal perspective, I really appreciate you being in the industry, you being the beacon that you are having more influence on more people in a positive way than I think you even know. Not just this interview, obviously, but the way that you operate, the way you talk, the way you think, the influence you're having on our industry. Because the bottom line is the more Marty Rodriguez is out there, the better. And it's not just about Marty selling homes or for her community. It's about our economy. Our economy is not coming back as fast as it should because of housing. And that's going to be a huge issue with the presidential election next year, is housing. It's going to come back. It's going to be on the front covers of newspapers and magazines again. And really, at the end of the day, until realtors learn the skill set, get back to the basics and really focus on learning how to work with distressed properties, learning how to help sellers through difficult situations, learning to think like Marty. The simple fact is this economy, this depression, recession, whatever you want to call it, started with housing, and for it to end, it has to end with housing, end with agents getting the skill sets necessary to really get the job done. Step up to the responsibility, guys. It can make a profound difference on your life, and not just financially either. So, Marty Rodriguez, thank you for being this week's Harris Real Estate University Superstar. Everyone else, thank you for listening in, and have a fantastic weekend. Thanks, Marty.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.